Hi, everybody. It's Jessica Stone, and I'm here at Stansberry Research, joined by James Early of Stansberry China and his colleague Jia Guo, who is in China right now. I wanted to ask you, first of all, Jia, how is the economic recovery going in China?
So pretty much what happened in China right now is the COVID-19 has passed. So everybody has gone back to their normal life, meaning that they can go to work without wearing mask, and they can have normal life by just hanging out with their friends at restaurants, going to shopping malls, and even theaters are reopened nowadays, so people can go check out movies. Everything has gone back to normal now in China.
Okay, so the height of the virus in China was the beginning of the year. We're now 9 months into the year. And you're right, in the video, I don't see a lot of people, certainly in restaurants, wearing masks. And one of the things we want to look at here, James, is what this video tells us about the economic recovery in China. Initially, it was a pretty uneven recovery, sponsored and spurred on by a lot of investment by the government in industry and infrastructure. Talk about that evolution and what we're seeing now, which is really what Jia is describing, a more consumer-led economic recovery.
The coronavirus impact in China is basically out of the way. Now we're gradually back to dealing with the old China, which still has some old China problems, but the virus impact is largely mitigated. People in the U.S. don't realize something. They don't realize how much further ahead China was in digital migration than the U.S. Before the virus, China was already 20% of e-commerce was done digitally. Now it's 26%. The U.S. went from 16% to 20%. That's a big jump, but it's still behind China. So we're seeing that initial fixed asset investment trickle down now into consumer spending, which is now something like 60 to 66% of the Chinese economy. Still not as high as the U.S., but the consumer is picking up the baton. But just this past month, just some new data has come out showing that consumer spending is that growth is starting to level up. It was up 0.5% in August. That's still an increase. That's the first increase in 7 months. But we're not at a robust, healthy economy yet. We're just at an economy that's recovered from COVID.
Well, and the Chinese economy has been making its reforms to move towards more consumer-led economy like ours is, which is about 70% of our GDP. One of the things that's really a leading indicator of the stock market right now are all the technology stocks. They're booming, right? And those products, by and large, are made in China. So how much of the Chinese economic growth has actually been because Americans and Europeans are buying more technology made in China?
Yeah. I mean, look, we're still, buying a ton of stuff. But the Chinese tech firms, and I would say the U.S. tech firms too, one thing we've seen globally is pandemics, is wars and disasters accelerate human progress in certain respects, right? We're doing this on Zoom. We would normally be doing this in a studio, right? The same thing is happening in China. And China was already on that direction anyway. So we're seeing the Chinese tech firms do well. We're seeing the U.S. tech firms do well. And that's just a reflection of where the world is headed.
James, what's your take on the implications of this review that Beijing is doing on the TikTok Oracle deal? Beijing is not likely to sign off on the current state of this deal, which is Oracle gets a piece of TikTok and doesn't actually take 100% ownership, which is what President Trump wants.
The irony is, for all the talk, for all the fuss, the situation we have now doesn't seem to really solve the original issue, which was data security. It's not clear what powers Oracle has. Trump just said a few days ago, Oracle will have control. And just today, as we're recording, Xi Jinping said, no, ByteDance has to have control. And I think that's what it really comes down to. China doesn't want to feel like the U.S. is pushing them around or muscling ByteDance into this deal. So they're going to muscle too. I wouldn't want to be ByteDance right now, but it's become a political pawn more than a business deal, more than a matter of national security.
Absolutely. Well, given the state of affairs, I think one thing that's very clear from the pictures that Jia has shown us is that the U.S. does have something to learn from China's economic recovery. And Jia, what would you say to Americans watching about what you think China did right in terms of the recovery from the pandemic?
Right. I think that's actually a very interesting question. But Jessica, actually, I think we had this communication back in March when China had this pandemic at the very beginning, and when the US was kind of still waiting and seeing if they're going to have the same issue. One thing I said at that moment was that this pandemic, this whole disease is very serious, and people, they have to take precautions and they have to take it very seriously. It's a public health issue. So I think that's the most important takeaway I think Americans should learn, or the whole world should learn from China.
James, what's your takeaway from the Chinese economic recovery? Is there something about the way they've come back, which is arguably quicker than they did even from the financial crisis about 10 years ago? They built their way out of that. They've built their way partially out of this one, but they've turned the switch to get consumers the confidence that they need to go back out and spend. And when we talked back in March, that wasn't the case. What's different this time? What has China learned that we can learn from?
South Korea and the US both got their first COVID case on the same day. And look at the difference in outcomes. So you do have something in China, with the Asian countries in general, but especially in China because it's so big, that they were able to recover faster. And that led to an economic recovery. People are going out like in the restaurants. People are going to the movies. People are working in the office again. That feeds commerce. It's as simple as that.
Beijing is certainly making the point that their system is better given their results, and that's probably selling very well in China. I'm going to wrap things up here, though. Thanks so much to both of you for joining us on China's uneven and now really positive recovery economically from the pandemic. Our thanks to you, James Early and Jia Guo from China. And if you want to see any more content just like this, please join us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.